Well, verdicts came down in 2 court cases this year after trials highlighted by denials, determined police work, and disturbing evidence. But in the end, most Canadians feel that for Tori Stafford and the murdered members of the Shafia family, justice is served. Applause outside a courthouse is something you typically see at the end of a heartwarming Hollywood movie. But while the guilty verdict handed down to Michael Rafferty had the public and Tori Stafford's dad clapping, the fact remained Tori was gone, killed by a sick couple who will likely spend the rest of their lives behind bars.
And it was all for this little girl right here, not just Tori, but for every little child in Canada that doesn't deserve what happened to her. Hey, Victoria! Woo!
When it finally builds up for a couple of years and it finally comes to trial and there is a conviction and people regard it as a good verdict, right, that justice was done, there is this collective, like, thank goodness now we get on.
It was an emotional end to the trial, which saw Michael Rafferty trying to convince the jury he was innocent. But while the evidence against him continued to mount, and while meticulous details laid out police and even a field trip for the jury to the rock pile on a remote property in Arthur Township where Tori's remains were found buried in a bag, it's likely the testimony of his then-girlfriend, who'd already been convicted in Tori's murder, sealed Rafferty's fate.
The verdict means that the jury has found that Michael Rafferty did kidnap, sexually assault, and murder Victoria Stafford.
Rafferty is appealing the verdict, but the violent and tragic end to Tori's life will be something many of us will never forget.
The reason you remember it, and we all remember it, is because we combine that scene with the evidence that we hear and we think of what happened to that little girl, and it's horrifying.
Canadians were also horrified when allegations surfaced that the 4 female members of the Shafia family found dead in a car in the Kingston Lock were murdered. The accused were Mohammed Shafia, his wife Tuba Mohammed Yahya, and their son Hamed Shafia, the father, mother, and brother of the victims, Geeti, Sahar, Zainab Shafia, and Roner Amir Mohammed, who ranged in age from 13 to 52. Yahya was Mohammed Shafia's first wife. The evidence focused on wiretaps of conversations between the accused, as well as revealing their Google searches, which included lake murders and best place to leave bodies. The 10-week case was dubbed the honor-killing trial.
It really hit at a lot of issues about, how do we let people get into our society and make sure that they are adapting, and what sort of cues do we look for when things are not working? And there certainly were indications that various officials hadn't noticed things or hadn't acted on them.
But when the verdict was read, the judge called the family's notion of honor sick. And while the Crown attorney was pleased about the message the verdict sent, he also highlighted the tragic circumstances surrounding the murders.
It's a very sad day because this jury found that 4 strong, vivacious, and freedom-loving women were murdered by their own family